Hey guys, welcome to Sporty Affairs. Myself Narendra, and today we are going to talk about F1. New F1 season is about to start in a few weeks. From March 28th, the Bahrain Grand Prix will be kicking off for the season of 2021. Let's talk about what is F1. Some of the people get confused with bunch of cars going into the circle. That is NASCAR, not F1. F1 is the cars, bunch of cars going into the track, which is specifically designed for race. So those racing tracks all around the world will host a bunch of teams, and F1 will begin from March of 28th of this year. F1 has 11 teams with 2 drivers each and 1 additional backup driver. There are limited spots and it is highly competitive to get into F1. The cost of owning the team are so high that during the recession and other scenarios, teams are leaving F1, and it was difficult to justify being on F1 team and owning the team. Some of the bigger names are BMW, Jaguar leaving the F1 in the 2007-2008 era, and those teams were replaced by some of the other teams. There are more successful teams such as Mercedes-AMG. They are winning the titles for so many years now. Ferrari is the oldest team in the F1. F1 is about 100 years old. It started back in 1920s and 30s. I myself watching it from the late 90s and a big fan of the sport. There are other teams which are not so popular, such as Haas from USA, which are just starting journey through the F1. So the joke around in the F1 era is the number of engineers on leave for Mercedes equivalent to number of engineers in the Haas team. That's how small the Haas team is. But they are pulling up their weights and they are kind of mid-table team. Let's talk about drivers. In the current era, the most successful driver is Lewis Hamilton. He's 7-time world champion and he just surpasses 91 Grand Prix win of Michael Schumacher. Michael Schumacher is another name. He has also won 7 titles and we wish him a speedy recovery. He's recovering from his accident back in 2013. Let's hope that he's still well. Next up is tires. So as we all know, the important part of any car is their tires. So there are a set of rules regarding what tires should be used, what are their configurations, and what are the rules behind those tires. So there are 3 types of tires: small, medium and hard compound tire. As the name suggests, soft tires last a short duration of time, but they give the drivers a quick burst. They can set the good time around the circuit, and they are effective based on the strategy behind the driver. The medium compound, as the name suggests, they are equivalently between the soft and hard compound. They doesn't last as long as hard compound tires, and they are better than soft compound tires. Regarding the lap times, it's slightly longer than soft compound tires but better than hard compound tires. And the hard compound tires, when the drivers needs to last the long onto the track rather than taking a pit stop. So next is wet conditions. So wet tires and intermediate tires, when the race director allow the teams to use the wet tires and intermediate tires, then those conditions are mandatory to use those tires. What is pit stop? So pit stop is when a car comes into the pit to change its tire or any other conditions they want to change, such as sometimes a front wing gets damaged or back wing gets damaged or someone crash into the cars and it is easier to fix while going into the pits. It's the same thing as going into the garage. But some of the brilliant records nowadays, such as Red Bull, keeping the time well below 2 seconds to change all 4 tires and drivers was ready to go onto the track. Generally, the entire pit stop lasts for about 20 seconds because drivers need to come in with a certain speed, because no other person in the garage should get harmed because of the driver's speed, and they need to stop for a couple of seconds when they will get all the 4 tires changed. And according to the new rules, earlier all the drivers used to come in the pit lane and their fuel used to get refilled, but nowadays there are restrictions regarding how much fuel a driver can have in their car. So nowadays they used to get a fixed quota of fuel and fuel weight they can carry into the car, and if they run out of fuel, which doesn't happen usually, but if they run out, they cannot add any extra fuel into the car. So the next up is budget. So it used to drive billions and millions of dollars into the F1 cars. So manufacturing those cars, different parts, engines, there are restrictions regarding engines. FIA at the beginning of the year tells to all the team that these are set of restrictions that they must follow to create their engines. There are few of the engine manufacturer which are selling their engines to the different teams, such as Mercedes has their own engine, Ferrari has their own engine, Honda is supplying engines to Red Bull, and then there are Renault, McLaren and other teams. Most other teams nowadays are going towards Mercedes because Mercedes is the winning team and they are also selling the engine unit. So the engine cost, the power unit and other things, those components drive the cost higher and higher every year, on to the point that it was not profitable to being on F1. So now they have a limit of $145 million. Each team must be in that budget, and this will be the first year when the teams will need to be in their budget of $145 million. Earlier there was no cap, you can spend as much money as you want. So now with the restriction, it will be interesting to see how they play the sport, because driver salary is not included, and top 3 earners from the team such as engineers or the team director, those salaries are also not included. So rest of the car, its manufacturing, its power unit and other components are all part of that 145 million. It will be a good era for motorsport to see how these teams behave on a budget, because up until this point, whoever has the most money, they can spend all the money into the R&D and design the most perfect and beautiful car to go onto that circuit and beating all the records. So how the race happens? So the race are all across the world, as I say, and there are 2 types of tracks. So first up is the typical racing track which is designed for motor racing, and the second is street track. So what are the street tracks? So there are tracks such as Monaco or Azerbaijan. Those tracks are converted street tracks. So those are, on a normal day you can drive on those roads, but during the F1 those roads are converted into a specific track so that a racing can happen. One of my favorite is Monaco Grand Prix. If you haven't checked out, please make sure that you follow onto this channel and F1 channel for the upcoming Monaco Grand Prix. It is so beautiful, the city is amazing, and it's a street circuit so small that you must qualify on top, because during the races you won't be overtake the other drivers. On a given week, a driver or a team must complete 3 parts. First is practice, second is qualifying, and third is final racing. So the practice is free to practice. A team can put specialized sensors and whatever they want to check what is the fastest time they can do on this track and how long they can last, to decide the strategy for the number of tires which I mentioned earlier. And for the qualifying and racing, a driver must use 2 sets of compounds of tires. Those cannot be from wet and intermediate, those must be from soft, medium and hard compound. From driver to driver, the strategy differs and they can utilize whatever they want. So during the qualifying, only 20 drivers used to go forward. It will be interesting to see how they do it for the current scenario of going, because only there are 10 to 11 teams such as 22 drivers onto the circuit. So how the elimination process and everything changes, it will be interesting to see. But earlier it used to happen that there are 24 drivers and they will go on the 3 qualifying sessions to be on the top 10 or to get the pole position. There are certain rule changes regarding 2021 and 2022. From 2022 onwards, there are completely new set of rules that will be applied for the F1 season, and those will be carry forward from that season onward. 2021 season, I am going to create a separate video, so do make sure that you are following this channel. And the last topic is drag reduction systems. So sometimes people don't understand it, but it is the one of the easiest rule. When the two cars are one after the other and the difference between them is 1 second, then the flap behind the car opens up to provide extra boost. So that is about 20 to 40 miles per hour difference when the drag reduction system opens up. So that's it from myself, guys. Do make sure to follow us on our social media. For Instagram, we are covering a different set of topics such as tennis, football slash soccer, and mainly cricket. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Myself Narendra. See you on the next video.